Authors Unplugged chat. I'm so glad that you could join us this week. We have 4 authors with us this week. We've got USA Today bestselling author Meara Platt. We have C.H. Admirand, Abigail Bridges, and Elizabeth Rose. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I really appreciate it.
Nice to be here.
Glad to be here, yeah.
Well, it's so good to have you. So we're going to go ahead and start in the order of releases because we had a busy week at Dragonblade this week. We have a busy month coming up too. We have lots of releases this month. So make sure you keep up with our pre-order scrolls so that you don't miss out on any of them. But our first book this week was Abigail Bridges, and it's a Rogue Like You it's book 2 in your Ashton Park series. Is that right?
That's right. The first book came out in the fall. That was To Stop a Scoundrel. And so the series follows 4 siblings of one family. And the first book was about the heir, Thomas. And then this book is about the second son, Robert, who leads kind of a double life. Robert is snarky and funny and tragic all in the same time. He's got a very dark past. But he leads a double life as a second son. He's been kind of in the background where the family is concerned and has spent quite a bit of his time in a gambling hell called Campion's Gentleman's Emporium, where he has developed a persona and acts as the floor manager on some nights. And so one of the basic premises of this book is that this life has been very secretive, both from his family and from society and all of this. And everything is beginning to unravel. And when the heir, Thomas, marries a woman who cannot have children, then the whole you need to produce an heir falls onto Robert. And so he has made a match.
It becomes more important.
It becomes more important. And he's made a match with this woman he despises. They are not quite betrothed. The contracts have not been signed, but she is the witch from hell. And she has a chaperone named Eloise. And Lady Eloise is 30. This is my heroine is 3 years older than my hero, and that was intentional on my part. And I'm going to continue that for not the next 2 books they're different, but I'm actually planning a series where all of the heroines are older than the heroes. Yes. It's kind of a theme for me. But Eloise is a spinster. She's got one more job, and that's being Lady Lydia's chaperone, and then she's retiring to the country. But her brother, who she adores, Timothy, who is the family heir, disappears. And the last place he was seen was Campion's Gentleman's Emporium. And so she seeks out Robert to try to get his help in finding her brother. And there's all this conflict back and forth, and she went disguising herself as a man for the most of the book. And so it goes into play with he does not want to help, but eventually gives into it because as this is a romance, these two are, the chemistry between them is somewhat fiery from the moment that they meet. And he's like, wait a minute, I've got this other plan going on. But he can't resist her and she can't resist him. And so it's kind of explosive, but there's some suspense and some sex and some, some lovey-dovey times. And Robert is a little damaged. So instead of being the usual, tough guy kind of hero, one of his things is he likes to hold her. He just likes to hold her, just hold her. And Aww. he does things like he holds her and he kisses her temple and he strokes her hair. And it's like, we don't have time for anything else right now. But, and even though they both enjoy the hot and heavy sex parts, it's the sexier of the 2 books. but
He's a keeper.
He's a keeper, and he made an appearance in the first book. And as writers, you know this. Sometimes you create a secondary character that really wants to take over.
Yeah.
And Robert was my secondary character. Then in the first book, I had to shut him down because it was like, you cannot be more likable than my hero. Stop it. I was really.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, I was really glad I got to turn him loose in this book.
That sounds like so much fun. So our second book this week is Elizabeth Rose's Highland Soul, which is the first book in a brand new series for you.
Yeah,
The Highland Outcasts, is that right?
that's right.
Oh, great. Can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Sure. Well, the Highland Outcast series has to do with my my McKeith clan, which show up in a lot of my other books as well. And so then I'm bringing some of them into the story. It's 4 friends. And they have just done something very heroic, and they're celebrating in the tavern. Now, the tavern is owned by the chieftain's grandfather, old Callum McKeith. The guy he's crazy, and he's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of comedy. A lot of fun scenes in this book. And anyway, they break some of his tavern rules. So they go from being heroes to outcasts, like in a matter of one night. And all of a sudden, they have to earn their way back into the clan by something that old Callum decides they have to do, which makes it even crazier. So Gavin McKeith he's partially responsible for wrecking old Callum's Cordovian boots. So he goes, "You're going to go to town and you're going to help the Cordwainer's daughter construct a new pair of boots for me." And Gavin's like, "Wait a second, I'm a warrior. I don't know anything about shoes. I don't want to know anything about it." And of course, the funnier part is that all the friends have to go with him and help him in his punishment. And so that's where the comedy kind of comes in. And so Davida is the Cordwainer's daughter. Her father has been injured and left for dead. And back then, they had guilds, which is kind of like the unions nowadays. And they had a Cordwainer's guild, in which I found out there was also a shoemaker's guild. And the Cordwainers made the new shoes, and they could use new leather. And the regular, the cobblers or the cobbler's guild, they couldn't. They just had to fix shoes. And so there's this whole subplot going on with the guilds. And so then Gavin has to come to help her. And Davida just sees him. She goes, "Oh, no, not him. No, this is who they sent from the castle. I know this Highlander. I've seen him in the tavern across the street, and he's the drunk. The last person I want is this guy."
Bad news. Bad news on my doorstep is what it is.
So of course, they're going to fall in love and everything. But the whole premise with the series is, I know, like with medieval romances, they mostly revolve around the nobles and the castles, and that's fine. I do that too. But I really got interested in the town life. Well, how was it that the commoners lived? What did they do? What were these merchants like? What were these craftsmen like? And so I started researching with the guilds. So in every book, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn about medieval shoes in this book. And it's fascinating when they go to the tannery and how they're constructed. Nobles had one kind of shoes and commoners had another, and there are tons of different types of shoes. So that's like a kind of, so in Highland Flame, you're going to find out about candle making. Highland Sky, you're going to find out about thatching roofs. So it's just like, I kind of want to bring my readers in and let them just go to town and, smell the smells and see the sights, hear what's going on, and just experience what it would be like back then. So it was a lot of fun to write, and I'm really excited about it.
I might have a thing for the bare-chested thatchers on TikTok.
Yeah, I love the covers.
It's a craft.
It is a craft.
Well, I didn't know what a quarterliner was until your book came across my desk. I had to look it up. It's like this is a word I don't know. So that's
and that's another reason why I wanted to bring this to readers, to let them know, because there's a lot of those words that you're like, what is that? And you don't know what it is, and it's just like, I want to help to educate people who are reading the books too from the medieval times to find out about that kind of stuff. So,
and I think we love falling in love, but we love the escape too. And one of the parts about escaping is having a chance to kind of immerse yourself into the world that you're reading.
Right. And it was so fascinating back then. Of course, there's a lot of things about the medieval period that, don't want to write about. They're pretty gross or disgusting too, or, the way they treated women and stuff like that. So you have to, you can kind of glaze over that easy. Or make up your own thing. But
Very cool. Very cool. The whole series sounds interesting. So looking forward to the rest of the books as well. So our next release this week was Siege Admirand, and this is a Lion's Den book, Rescued by the Lion.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, so go ahead.
So,
Sorry.
So roll right on.
I'm still coming down off deadline brain. I just turned a book in Monday, so I had to play catch up. What day is it? Thursday? I guess I've been catching up for a couple days. I even had to go back, and I could not remember my heroine's name from Rescued by the Lion because I've been spending 3 months with Gwendolyn and Patrick O'Malley, and it was anyway. Sorry. The Lion's Den was a really interesting project for me to take on because I thought I really want to do this. It's a world, like it's already there. You
This
have
is
to
the first Lion's Den book, right?
right first. So that's why it was such a challenge. But I'm like, I could do this. I've been writing for a long time. So, but the best part is all of the resources, and I just have to show you because this was my favorite one. The floor plan. I was like, this is absolutely fabulous because it shows. Well, this is actually the Lion's Den on Cleveland Row. The resources that they have for the authors that are writing in the Lion's Den, I was like, this is fabulous. Aside from all my research books, this like really got me going because it has the entrances to the garden, the main gambling room where the men are doing what men do.
The various things.
The wages, the wagers that are placed and, seeing which rake or rogue or maybe just a gentleman who does not have an income and is looking to marry well, finds himself in Bessie Dove Lyon's The Lion's Den. So it was really a challenge, but it was a lot of fun. And I thought, well, who could I take to the Lion's Den? And all of a sudden I was like, okay, it's sad. It happens a lot. But my hero, Captain Colin Broadbank, has been in the Royal Navy for a number of years, captains his own, well, it's not his, the King's ship, the USS Britannia. And the last thing he wants is to spend any time with a bunch of landlubbers. But his older brother dies of a virulent fever. I can't even speak today. And so he's called home, and his father, the Earl, is like, yes, and you really should marry because, you need an heir and all that, because the older brother did not have one. So he takes up the challenge. Pardon me?
That's inconvenient, that whole perishing without an heir thing.
Yeah, so it puts a lot of pressure on the middle son, Colin. So he agrees. He goes, and the last thing he expects to see is a tiny woman with black hair and brown eyes running past him like she's being pursued. She's not supposed to be in the main gaming room, so he needs to, but he doesn't think about that. He's just like, I have to take care of this. He's used to people obeying him as a captain of a ship. He's like, boom, like yelling through the crowd like he's standing on the quarterdeck, and people are looking at him like, what's going on? But when he gets there to rescue her, tiny Miss Gemma Atherton apparently is backed against the wall, but she has her reticule poked into this gentleman's stomach. And she has her grandfather's dueling pistol in it. She has a specially made reticule, so it's long enough because, the barrels on dueling pistols were long. But
How long did it take you to figure that part out?
I have a lot of weapon research books.
I know.
I've had for a while. I just love it. I go through and I'm like, okay, nope, that's Italian. I don't think so. Maybe it could be. I'd really rather have, made by. I wonder if it was Manton. I think it might have been Manton that I used in the story, the gunsmith. But lots of cool facts that you can use from your research over the years, and I enjoyed putting that all together. But he tries to rescue her. She doesn't think she needs to be rescued, but she really does, because her father would really like to get his hands on her inheritance that she's getting from her grandmother. So there's lots of intrigue. She does clock him in the head with a poker from the fireplace, and little things happen, but
Some things are doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I really like when there's a lot of action and adventure. Because in life, for me, I mean, I love the romance, and when the two people meet and they connect. So across the crowded room, like I can't even remember the name of the movie. Rosanna Brazzi sings "Some Enchanted Evening." Oh my God, why can't I remember the name of the movie? Somebody here must know.
South Pacific.
Thank
But-
you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wash that man right out of her hair. Oh my God. It's
I was
big.
going to embarrass myself and guess The King and I. So
Oh, you know what? I love that movie too.
yeah, they're both.
So many good movies. But my hero, I kept seeing Gregory Peck in my head. Oh my God. I kept posting those pictures. The same one of the close-up of his face. So handsome. They don't make them like that anymore. But, sorry, I ramble. Sorry. I'm done.
That's perfect. That's exactly what we needed. That's more than enough. I'm very curious about what the tiny woman with the dueling pistol gets into. So that sounds like very much fun. So actually we are recording on Meara's release day. So congratulations. Today is Treasure of Love's release day, and it's book 12 in the Book of Love series.
Book 13.
Whoa.
Book 13.
Oh, it is book 13. I wrote down 13. I remember 12. Good gracious. It's like, and
I know they're just coming.
also delightful, and the blurbs are also delightful. And so,
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
Yeah, so it's part of the Book of Love series, and I think we'd started with 3 books, and then said, okay, we're going to expand to 6, and then we added novellas, and then we added another 3, so we had 9, and then 12. And I know that Catherine wants me to stop already, but no, we're having fun. We're having fun with these stories, and as you know, the Book of Love, the whole premise is that there's this mysterious book that helps these heroines find their true love. And as each success happens, this book kind of builds up on this aura. But so Treasure of Love, it's actually, the book has been given to the hero, and who is the brother of the two heroes in the prior stories of The Wonder of Love and The Journey of Love. And he's not going to read it. He's a top agent of the crown. He knows everything. He uses his senses. He's aware of everything, and he doesn't need someone to tell him how to fall in love, right? But meanwhile, so the book is there, and meanwhile, the heroine is her name is Lucy. Well, the hero is Donald, and Donald Braden. Is Braden.
Braden.
Yes,
we like those a lot.
Yes, everybody seems to love those Bradens. I wish they were real. We'd all be cheating. It probably wouldn't be a good idea. But no. So Lucy is is the young girl, the young woman he's been charged to protect. She was raised in. She just thinks she's an ordinary girl, and had been raised by these parents who just did not love her, never paid attention to her, basically ignored her. And so when she sees this book, she just wants to find out, how do you make people love you? How does it, so she's not even.
The treasure part comes from. Oh,
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
And but meanwhile, Donald, who had been on assignment and had seen her before, has been pretty much, I would call it secretly in love with her, but it's more that he's just stubbornly refusing to admit it, and he's going to get around to telling her, but not that he was, but he's got too much work for the crown to do. And but once he's assigned to her, she's actually the secret daughter of a very powerful person, a very powerful duke. She doesn't know it. He just finds out about it. And the way he finds out about it is that there's some powerful people who are out to kill her now because of they discovered her identity. She has no idea what's going on. So he's going to take her on the run and go into hiding with her. She's insisting that he takes this book. She sees that book and she's taking it with him. So it's actually just a cute story. There's mystery involved, of course, trying to figure out who it is that's trying to kill her. And of course, Donald is trying very hard to keep a professional distance, but he can't. She's just adorable. She's just like the sweetest thing. It's so obvious that she's lovable. She's completely lovable, but doesn't realize it because nobody has told her. And when she's out on in the marriage mart, nobody wants her because they don't realize they think she's just, the daughter of just some guy, some regular people. And so she's got this misapprehension that she's just not lovable. And the interaction between them is, I don't know, as I wrote it, it's just, like sometimes like you put your fingers on the keyboards and they're just like crackle. It's like fiery, it sizzles. It's just, the interaction between them is just that. She's just this perfect, lovable thing. And he's got this Braden, I've got to protect her and I love her and I'm going to be true and stuff. But, but only he's got to save her first and got to figure out who's trying to hurt her. And so they go on the run, and that's part of the mystery. And so as the story develops, she finds out who she is. He tells her, he doesn't know much beyond what what her father has told, who's actually the head runs the agency. He's and Donald is top agent for the Crown. And so meanwhile, but that's the basic premise is that they're trying to figure out who it is that's trying to get her, that's trying to kill her. And so it's just a fun story. And we're going to continue because I've already signed on for book 14. So we're definitely having another book in the series. But that's, that's about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I wondered when I saw the tag for it, the she's a treasure if he can only convince her.
Yeah.
Tag.
Yes.
I love that. I love that idea. I love the setup of a heroine discovering her worth. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And part of the fun of it too is that she just doesn't realize it. And he's like wild in love with her, and she just doesn't, she just doesn't understand like what is really going on. She just doesn't think that anybody's gonna love her. And it's just a cute, but it's cute. Their interaction is very cute together.
Well, that sounds great. So we have lots of good stories this week. We always have good stories, but we have lots of good stories this week. I'll make sure that I put the links in the comments so that if you haven't gotten your Dragonblade books yet, you can grab them now. You always want to get them release week. Dragonblade books are the best deal on pre-order and release day, so you want to make sure you pick them up right away. So make sure the links into everything are in there. But we had talked a little bit before we started recording because you can see it has a sword behind her head. And then Abigail had to show her sword, like you do.
Her sword was bigger.
And Elizabeth, you were talking about the research that you did into your
weapons.
I'm sorry?
To the weapons.
Yes. And so I was wondering, can you guys talk a little bit about the background work that goes into developing your characters, the things that you the rabbit holes you go down, the things that you learn that you done.
Would take you away from writing time.
That's exactly. The big distractions. I want the big distractions.
They are big distractions. I wanted to go. I have a couple of research places saved online in the UK with the military, and they have listed the ships' names. So I wanted to get one that was definitely from that era. And I was kind of surprised at how long ships were in service before they sold them off, or unfortunately, the Battle of Trafalgar, they did damage quite a number of ships. But so, I mean, I have that resource. I have research books that I've had, God, forever. But the facts aren't going to be updated because it's in the past. That's the part that I like. Unless you rewrite the 1800s, it's not going to change.
Let's
But-
not do that.
But I love the visuals in the weaponry books. I have a couple of those from different eras because they have some amazing pictures. But then I started thinking, a lot of these weapons look pretty intricate, with like all on the dueling pistols where they're all like scroll work and everything. Your average person is not going to get his hands on a dueling pistol. So, I mean, there's the blunderbusses, which are like the short guns that they could use pepper shot in if they wanted to. But I really get sucked into things like that. I mean, I have my costuming books, but I have to say weapons kind of, weapons, ships, stuff that, I don't play with, but I like to imagine what my heroes and heroines would do with them. Heroines especially.
Heroines especially. So, Elizabeth, you were talking about the townspeople and learning about what it was like to live in the Middle Ages. Is there something, or in medieval times, is there something that you were particularly, not the gross parts, but the aspects that you were particularly drawn to? Something that we don't know about?
It's just fascinating back then, I'm trying to think of something that isn't gross, but the towns were
okay, just in moderation.
The towns were interesting because they had 2-story buildings, and the top story it hung over the first story, and there was a reason for that, because they would throw their waste out the window or have a hole in the floor, and it's kind of like the bathroom. Everything would go into the street. Not to sound gross on that, but life was rough back then. I mean, we have it easy nowadays, but they learned to cope. We're talking about all the research, and when I already had, it wasn't too big of a distraction for me with the whole shoe thing, because I had the research done from a book I wrote years ago. That was like the days when you would print stuff out on your computer. I have stacked like this about all the different types of shoes, and how they were made and what you had to do. And it's just little things like that I was really drawn to that. I'm like, oh, they had embroidery on the shoes, on some of them. On the nobles, they would have silk shoes. And could you imagine wearing silk shoes through the streets like that? I mean, so they had
to wear more than once,
They had what they called pattens, which were these big wooden blocks, and it was like a shoe that you put over your foot. So when you're walking through all the sludge in the streets, your little silk slipper doesn't get ruined, because you have these. It's like wearing clogs out to your garden nowadays, kind of, So it's kind of like boots in a way, I suppose. But just little things like that were just, and that's, like I said, it really drew me to want to find out more about all the different, crafts and all the tradesmen and how they did it, and like even in the second book with the candles, there were candles made out of beeswax, but those were more for the nobles, because everyone else had it made out of animal fat, which was tallow, and those things really stink, and it's just the little things that you take for granted nowadays, and I'm just like, I want people to know about that. I don't want them to just know what happens in the castle. I've got those books too, but now we're taking it behind the scenes, down the street, to Grope Lane, to find out, when you're walking down Grope Lane, who's selling what, and how seedy it is and how scary it was, So it's just a lot of fun. Really.
Oh, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. Somebody was complaining about the latest Daniel Gabaldon book. They were like, nothing happens. It's like, that's the part I like. I like the part where she's making blood pudding and they're butchering animals and doing all of those kind of things. I love that.
Exactly.
I love learning about those kind of things.
Yeah.
So Meara, you've got with 13 books in the series, and I know that your series interconnect. You've got lots of long-running series that interconnect with each other. Instead of research, is there a way that you keep track of things, that you keep everything straight in your head? I mean, it must be like the most ultimate story Bible in the world to keep track of who's related to who and how everybody.
Story Bible is what I need and what I don't have. But I do if I have a character introduced, and it would be so helpful if I were more organized. But but I would just go back into like the book where if I'm referring to a character where he or she was the hero or heroine, and I'd look, okay, hair, eyes, and see, okay, what did I say the eyes were? What did I say the hair color was and stuff? But usually I actually have a very good picture of each couple in my head. Very, very clear. They're really very vivid, like real people. So I don't really worry too much about them. But what I do spend a lot of time in the rabbit hole is the settings. Like if I'm going to put them in, whether they'll be in a small town on the seacoast or whether up in York or in the Lake District or whatever, I really will just take a look and find all kinds of pictures and find out like what kind of stone they used to build their homes and what the terrain was and the weather and just little things like that. And then what else? I think there was something else that I had in this one.
Build a picture for yourself that way.
Yeah, and I build a very vivid picture. And I said, I think I'm very big also on saying like the characters and the settings are very important to me. And the plots seem to just kind of develop around them and where they are, where I'm going to be putting them. And, but I did, as we all do, I wanted to research a little bit with the heroine, who was her secret, she never knew who her real mother was, and her real mother had passed away. So I said, well, I've got to go back and see like where I'm going to have her, where that family was raised. And so I set it in Dartmoor, which is a little bit like bleak a little bit. And that's how the mother's background and her life, her upbringing had been, although we don't go too much into it, but it's just like every little bit does get searched and, look through the Brett's peerage and just to make sure I'm not using some real Earl or Duke or whatever. It's going to, email me saying, but or my ancestor was a fiend back then. But no, that's a bit. But we do. You can get the foods, the weaponry that you really can go. The carriages. You can just go off on a tangent at any moment for everything.
So Abigail, you had an emporium in this book, which I love the word emporium. It's like
it's a euphemism for a gambling hell. And so it's in Covent Garden. And so I did a whole lot of research in gambling hells. And again, part of the name research, one of the more interesting things, little tidbits that I came across in working with this book, is that candles were sold in hour lengths. You could buy 4-hour candles or 6-hour candles. And it was a big to-do when a hostess, a duchess or a countess, bought 6-hour candles for her event, because it was like a signal that this was going to be a party to end all parties, because they were going until after midnight. And so it's just, you go into these research, you start with like the research on the candles, who had the wax candles and who had tallow and, who used oil and that kind of thing. And then you wind up over yonder somewhere, with beekeeping and candle making and the emporium
and honey. And
well, and here, this is one of those things. The emporium uses 800 candles a night.
Oh my goodness.
And so they use 800 candles a day. They have their own candle maker. And it's a business they keep. It's a family business that when they started buying their candles, and so one of the tense suspense threads is, will the emporium have to be shut down? And there's a lot of pressure from the elite to shut it down. And the thing about it is that it employs 70 people. They hire kids out of the rookeries, and talk about a wormhole of research, start researching the rookeries. And, you know, they have a whole, they're a little society. And yes, some of the things that go on there are, in our eyes, despicable. One side of the Emporium is a brothel, but it's like they have saved so many people and provided employment for so many people. It puts Robert on a tenterhook in that he's getting pressure to shut down this Emporium. On the other hand, he's got all of these people who he's been responsible for several years, and he knows what will happen to them. And he has to come to a point with, what am I going to do? Yeah. And because if he continues his courtship of this Duke's daughter, then he's going to have to separate himself from this because it's too much of a scandal. So it's research is one of my backgrounds is that I used to. Are you guys familiar with the Society for Creative Anachronism?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, I was a member of the society for years, and so this historical research, this is
why you people have the good story.
Yeah, and in fact, and I love the medievals, and one of the books that I have planned is that I want to go back to my first love, and that's the medieval period. So, yeah, in terms of a series Bible, I use Excel. I keep everything in a spreadsheet. And they overlap, and I've got one for the series that's like 7 worksheets. And so you lay them all out and stuff like that. But yeah, research is just something I love, and I have to stay focused because I'll start researching how different is horse breeding in the early 1800s than it is today. And it's like, I will go on for hours. So,
yep.
Well, ladies, we've run way over, which I knew we were going to do because because there's so much to talk about and so much more to talk about. But I really appreciate you taking the time today to be with us. Again, it was a blast, and I learned things that I didn't know before. So that's always a lot of fun. So I will make sure that the links are in the comments so you guys can grab the books if you haven't already. You need to get them. These are some really diverse and really lovely stories, and it'd be perfect for escaping the news and everything else and sitting out. It's getting warm. We're gonna have spring now. I don't know where everyone is, but it's spring is like right here. So if you haven't gotten it yet, I can tell you from Virginia, it's on its way. It's moving towards you. Today was the first day the chipmunks are back. It's it's time. So
yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us this week. Everybody, we will be back here at the same time next week with more wonderful Dragonblade books to keep you entertained. So thanks, ladies. Thanks for taking the time.
Bye-bye.